Hello, it's me, Mike, with HPDS. This video will be a reading and a study of Exodus chapter 28. That's Exodus chapter 28. Per usual, though, before I get started, I will read the Lord's Prayer. And it reads, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. All right, so I'll give a recap of Exodus, as I normally do. If you remember, Exodus is the book of, it tells of how God has taken the children of Israel out of Egypt, and he's making them his children, or he's making them his people, and he's becoming their king. But he's done a lot of great miracles for these children of Israel while he's been keeping them from, while he's taking them out of Egypt. So remember, from the get-go, this whole chapter has been filled with, incredible miracles. There was the 10 plagues. And after the 10 plagues, Pharaoh finally let the people go. And, after that, they came to the Red Sea where they thought they were going to be trapped there. And Moses parted the Red Sea. And that's where Pharaoh and his army ended up dying. They got caught and they got caught up by the Red Sea when it closed up on them. And since then, they've been in the wilderness of Sinai. And they've also seen some miracles out there. They came across manna. God gave them quail. There was a rock at Horeb. There was the battle with the Amalek. I can't even say their name right now. The Amalekites. So there's been some great miracles. And then starting around chapter 19, getting into chapter 20, they've gotten to Mount Sinai. And at Mount Sinai, something even more incredible has happened. God has shown himself on the mountain, and it's very terrifying. He's speaking to Moses, but everybody can hear him. And since then, he's been up on the mountain talking to them. He's given them commandments. He's given them some laws. And then he's also started giving them instructions for work on the tabernacle. So that's, if you remember back, like the past few chapters, starting with around chapter 25, I believe is where it starts. Chapter 25, God started giving instructions for the tabernacle. So he taught them how to make the Ark of the Testimony, the mercy seat, the table for showbread, the golden lampstand. And in chapter 26, he taught them how to make the sanctuary structure itself, and how to make the curtains, how to make the coverings, and how to put up the boards, and even about how to make the veil to separate. There's there's an inner and the most holy, the holy of holies, and then also the just the sanctuary itself. And then in the last chapter, Exodus 27, God taught him he was telling him how to make the altar in the courtyard. So that's where there was an altar made outside in the front. There was an entire courtyard that was created by a type of fence structure. That fence structure was basically it was with a bunch of curtains, though, instead of what we know, what we would think is a fence. He used curtains, attached to these wood, and everything's overlaid with gold or brass or silver. So it's all very lavish, is what I would say, honestly. But that's where we are in chapter 28. We're going to come across even some more work, and we will actually come across the garments, the priestly garments. And so I'll go ahead and get started on showing this. And what you'll see here is Exodus chapter 28, the priestly garments. That's what this chapter is called, and it's a pretty good sized chapter. It's got 43 verses, and what we're looking for is chapters 1 through 3. We're going to come across Aaron and his son. Verses 1 through 3. Aaron and his sons are going to be set apart. And then verses 4 through 5, it's going to start talking about Aaron's garments. Verses 6 through 7, we're going to read about the ephod. Verses 8 through 14, the girdle of the ephod. 15 through 29, we're going to read about the breastplate of judgment. Verse 30, we're going to read about the Urim and the Thummim. And in 31 through 35, the blue robe of the ephod. 36 through 39, we're going to read about the mitre. We'll just say it's the mitre. In verses 40 through 43, we're going to come across the garments for Aaron's sons. So that's really what we're looking for in this particular chapter. It's going to be the priestly garments. So that's what's going on here is God has, he's given them some instructions on obviously making the sanctuary. Now he's going to actually give them instructions on how to make these priestly garments. So what I'll go ahead and do now, per usual, is I'll actually just go ahead and read the chapter straight through. And afterwards, I'll go ahead and read it line by line, and we'll see what the Holy Spirit brings to the table. So let me get this set up, and I'll get to reading Exodus chapter 28. All right. And it reads, let me make sure I got this set up. Okay. And it reads, and take thou unto thee Aaron thy brother, and his sons with him, from among the children of Israel, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office, even Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar, Aaron's sons. And thou shalt make holy garments for Aaron thy brother, for glory and for beauty. And thou shalt speak unto all that are wise-hearted, whom I have filled with the spirit of wisdom, that they may make Aaron's garments to consecrate him, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office. And these are the garments which they shall make: a breastplate, and an ephod, and a robe, and a broidered coat, a mitre, and a girdle. And they shall make holy garments for Aaron thy brother, and his sons, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office. And they shall take gold, and blue, and purple, and scarlet, and fine linen. And they shall make the ephod of gold, of blue, and of purple, of scarlet, and fine twined linen with cunning work. It shall have the two shoulder pieces thereof joined at the two edges thereof, and so it shall be joined together. And the curious girdle of the ephod, which is upon it, shall be of the same, according to the work thereof, even of gold, of blue, and purple, and scarlet, and fine twined linen. And thou shalt take 2 onyx stones, and grave on them the names of the children of Israel, 6 of their names on one stone, and the other 6 names of the rest on the other stone, according to their birth. With the work of an engraver in stone, like the engravings of a signet, shalt thou engrave the 2 stones with the names of the children of Israel. Thou shalt make them to be set in ouches of gold. And thou shalt put the 2 stones upon the shoulders of the ephod for stones of memorial unto the children of Israel. And Aaron shall bear their names before the Lord upon his 2 shoulders for a memorial. And thou shalt make ouches of gold. And 2 chains of pure gold at the ends, of wreathen work shalt thou make them, and fasten the wreathen chains to the ouches. And thou shalt make the breastplate of judgment with cunning work. After the work of the ephod thou shalt make it, of gold, of blue, and of purple, and of scarlet, and of fine twined linen shalt thou make it. 4 square it shall be being doubled. A span shall be the length thereof, and a span shall be the breadth thereof. And thou shalt set it in settings of stone, even 4 rows of stone. The first shall be a sardius, a topaz, and a carbuncle. This shall be the first row. And the second row shall be an emerald, a sapphire, and a diamond. And the third row a leaguer, an agate, and an amethyst. And the fourth row a beryl, and an onyx, and a jasper. They shall be set in gold in their enclosings. And the stones shall be with the names of the children of Israel, 12, according to their names, like the engravings of a signet. Every one with his name shall they be according to the 12 tribes. And thou shalt make upon the breastplate chains at the ends of wreathen work of pure gold. And thou shalt make upon the breastplate 2 rings of gold, and shalt put the 2 rings on the 2 ends of the breastplate. And thou shalt put the 2 wreathen chains of gold in the 2 rings which are on the ends of the breastplate. And the other 2 ends of the 2 wreathen chains thou shalt fasten in the 2 ouches, and put them And thou shalt put the 2 wreathen chains of gold in the 2 rings which are in the ends of the breastplate. And the other 2 ends of the 2 wreathen chains thou shalt fasten in the 2 ouches, and put them on the shoulder piece of the ephod before it. And thou shalt make 2 rings of gold, and thou shalt put them upon the 2 ends of the breastplate in the border thereof, which is in the side of the ephod inward. And 2 other rings of gold thou shalt make, and shalt put them on the 2 sides of the ephod underneath, toward the forepart thereof, over against the other coupling thereof, above the curious girdle of the ephod. And they shall bind the breastplate by the rings thereof unto the rings of the ephod with a lace of blue, that it may be above the curious girdle of the ephod, and that the breastplate be not loosed from the ephod. And Aaron shall bear the names of the children of Israel in the breastplate of judgment upon his heart, when he goeth in unto the holy place, for memorial before the Lord continually. And thou shalt put in the breastplate of judgment the Urim and the Thummim, and they shall be upon Aaron's heart, when he goeth in before the Lord. And Aaron shall bear the judgment of the children of Israel upon his heart before the Lord continually. And thou shalt make the robe of the ephod all of blue, and there shall be an hole in the top of it. In the midst thereof it shall have a binding of woven work round about the whole of it, as it were the whole of an habergeon, that it be not rent. And beneath upon the hem of it thou shalt make pomegranates of blue, and of purple, and of scarlet, round about the hem thereof, and bells of gold between them round about. A golden bell and a pomegranate, a golden bell and a pomegranate upon the hem of the robe round about. And it shall be upon Aaron to minister, and his sound shall be heard when he goeth in unto the holy place before the Lord, and when he cometh out, that he die not. And thou shalt make a plate of pure gold, engrave upon it, like the engravings of a signet, holiness to the Lord. And thou shalt put it on a blue lace, that it may be upon the mitre, upon the forefront of the mitre it shall be. And it shall be upon Aaron's forehead, that Aaron may bear the iniquity of the holy things, which the children of Israel shall hallow in their holy gifts. And it shall be always upon his forehead, that they may be accepted before the Lord. And thou shalt embroider the coat of fine linen, and thou shalt make the mitre of fine linen, and thou shalt make the girdle of needlework. And for Aaron's sons thou shalt make coats, and thou shalt make for them girdles, and bonnets shalt thou make for them, for glory and for beauty. And thou shalt put them upon Aaron thy brother, and his sons with him, and shalt anoint them, and consecrate them, and sanctify them, that they may minister unto me in the priest's office. And thou shalt make them linen breeches to cover their nakedness. From the loins even unto the thighs they shall reach. And they shall be upon Aaron and upon his sons when they come in unto the tabernacle of the congregation, or when they come near unto the altar to minister in the holy place, that they bear not iniquity and die. It shall be a statute forever unto him and his seed after him. Okay, so that was Exodus 28 in its entirety. So yeah, that's Exodus 28. What did we read through? And it's another one of these kind of complicated chapters because there's a lot of crafting going on. They are making things, and this is another one. And so they've made some garments now for Aaron and his sons. And if you remember Aaron and his sons, they're the ones that were kind of part of the elders here that got to go up and see God back in I want to say it was back in chapter 24, 25, 24, something along those lines. So he's having them make some clothing for the priests is what this chapter is about. And so, good thing I will what I'll do now is I'll read through the chapter and I'll go line by line and we'll see what the Holy Spirit brings to it. But I do have some pictures here to show of these garments. So I'll actually go ahead and do that. I'll bring these up. So let me go ahead and get this set up. Oops, always got to get this set up. Okay, so I've got these pictures here. I'm not really sure which one is the best one to show, but you could see these are the garments that God is instructing. This is, that God will be instructing them to make. There's going to be the ephod, and then you're going to have the what is it called? The girdle of the ephod. We're going to see the breastplate of judgment over here. We've got these other things, which are these stones that God has them put on. And I'll read through those, but you'll see that this is ultimately the garment that God is telling them to make. It's pretty intricate. It's complicated. You can see there's a lot, you need a lot of skillful workers. As I've been saying, these are all skillful workers that are doing some work here. But let's go back through it and see what we can come across. But this is ultimately what they're making here in this particular chapter. So yeah, I'll just go ahead and get back into it again. And take thou unto thee Aaron thy brother and his sons. So these first 3 verses are going to be Aaron and his sons set apart, verses 1 through 3. And take thou unto thee Aaron thy brother and his sons with him from among the children of Israel, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office, even Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar, Aaron's sons. So you remember these sons, I want to say way back in Exodus 6 is where we kind of come across the line. I think it was Exodus 6, but his children, that's where God is kind of making it known that this priesthood kind of deal is a lineage. It's Aaron and his sons from the Levites. They're going to be the Levites. And thou shalt make holy garments for Aaron thy brother for glory and for beauty. So these garments, just like this whole sanctuary, seems that they're making these things for glory and for beauty. So look at the glory. Like I said, these are complicated, and this is also, look at all these stones. There's a diamond in there. There's onyx stones. I think there's a sapphire. These are some, rare jewels over here. And then there's also gold that he's going to be wearing above as like a crown type situation above on his head. And of course, these would not have been, even in those days, these are not cheap clothing. This is very beautiful clothing, very, it's very extravagant. Let's see. And thou shalt speak unto all that are wise-hearted, whom I have filled with the spirit of wisdom, that they may make Aaron's garments to consecrate him, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office. So that's all it's really saying. He's saying that I'm going to speak to all, and thou shalt speak unto all that whom I have filled, all the wise-hearted, that they're going to make Aaron's garments. And that's kind of what I've been saying in the past few chapters, is that what's going on is God is having these people, the skilled laborers, do some work. So these people are all skilled laborers, and that's what he means right here. All that are wise-hearted, whom I have filled with the Spirit, that they make Aaron's garments. So all these people, it's not just it's everything is skilled, and that's what he means by all the wise-hearted. You gotta go get these skilled laborers to make these things for you. And these are the garments which they shall make: a breastplate, an ephod, and a robe, the broidered coat, a mitre, and a girdle, and they shall make holy garments for. So let's take a look at this picture real quick. This is kind of the one that really, let's see, a breastplate. Let's see, the breastplate of judgment. We see that an ephod and a robe. So we're going to see the robe. There's an upper robe. There's the ephod, back part of the ephod. So the ephod is this kind of like it's kind of like what I would say, we would kind of think of it as like, it's just a garment that goes over it. But I would say it's almost reminiscent of like like an apron for a chef or something, is what I kind of think of it as. That's the ephod. A robe and a broidered coat, a mitre. I think the mitre is actually this thing up on top of his head, the turban type situation, this crown, this gold plate attached by a blue cord so you can see the gold plate is attached to this mitre, which goes up on his head. And so let's see, in a girdle. So these are just parts of the things, and that's what we're reading about. Let's see, verses 4-5, Aaron's garments, that these are his garments, and they shall take gold and blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen. So this is talking about, like I said, Aaron's garments, which are these pictures. He's the high priest. That's what the high priest is going to wear. And it's all going to be part of, ritual. I mean, not a, but it's all going to be a way to sacrifice to the Lord, and everybody's going to have to do things a certain way when it comes to this sanctuary coming up in the future, and God is teaching them how to do it. And this was important for the high priest to be wearing these things. And at the time, Aaron is the high priest. And so then, of course, that's what it's talking about. It's talking about all these things that we're going to make. And then moving into verses 6-7, we're going to read about this ephod. And they shall make the ephod of gold, of blue, and of purple, of scarlet, and fine twined linen, with cunning work. It shall have the 2 shoulder pieces thereof joined at the 2 edges thereof, and so it shall be joined together. So I guess that's what it's talking about. This thing, this ephod, you can kind of see it. It's joined at the the back and the front of this thing. You can see, like I said, it's kind of like what I would call like an apron, like a chef's apron. And you can see he's saying it's got this kind of like a back and a front, and then at the shoulders it's connected. So it's basically a one piece kind of suit here, a one piece ephod, and it's connected up at the shoulders. And of course it's going to be cunning work. Like I said, this is by the skilled laborers. The skilled laborers are doing everything. And I keep making mention of that, the skilled laborers, because everybody is still at this mountain. Everybody can still hear God. They should be listening and paying attention. So even though God is specifically speaking to Moses directly, it is pretty much, it should be, at this point, it's already insinuated and understood that everybody should be listening. They're supposed to be listening and obeying his commands, and so they should all be working. They should already as soon as they started hearing this, they should have already started preparing and getting ready. And so all the skilled laborers would have been put right to work. So remember, they were working and doing stuff in Egypt. And so now, after these few months that they've been out of the land of Egypt, and they've made their way out here to Mount Sinai, they haven't really done work. So now they're doing work. So they should all be getting ready. And we'll see in a few chapters coming up that some of these people, and you're gonna notice that some of these people are probably the lower class people, the servants, and so they're probably not as skilled in labor, or at least not able enough to be doing this kind of work for whatever reasons. But we'll see that coming up in like chapter, I want to say 32, 33, something along those lines, where we see the people make the golden bull. And those people, of course, uh, you'll see that they, got Aaron speaks to them, telling them to get their earrings out. And so you notice those people must be the servants, because a few chapters back we come across the command that's saying, if you're a servant and you want to stay with your master, you gotta, go and put an awl through your ear and basically put that earring. But that's for a later chapter, of course. So I just keep making mention that these are skilled laborers. The best workers are making all this stuff right now. And so moving on, we're going to go through verses 8 through 14, the girdle of the ephod. So now here's this girdle. And the curious girdle of the ephod, which is upon it, shall be of the same, according to the work thereof, even of gold, of blue, and purple, and scarlet, and fine twined linen. And thou shalt take 2 onyx stones, and grave on them the names of the children of Israel, 6 of their names on one stone, and the other 6 names on the rest on the other stone, according to their birth. With the work of an engraver in stone, like the engravings of a signet, shalt thou engrave the 2 stones with the names of the children of Israel. Thou shalt make them to be set in ouches of gold. So he's talking about what appears to be these things right up here. So he's talking about the girdle that goes underneath the row, or whatever is he called it. He called it the curious girdle of the ephod, which is upon it shall be the same. So it's also real nice. It's purple, but you're gonna see that I guess it has something to do with these things up here that it's talking about. Let me see if this one has. You can see the ephod shoulder straps. Well, maybe this one doesn't show it. Let me see if this one kind of shows it. And it says, take 2 onyx stones and engrave on them the names. So right here you can see these onyx stones kind of up here on the top of this girdle. Let's see. I guess this one, no, it's this one, I guess, kind of shows it the best. You could see this arrow pointing to these 2 right here. But that's what he's talking about, these 2 onyx stones. And so not only, like I said, this is really heavy duty. This is some skilled work. He's getting them. And again, remember, I keep making mention, this is, well, I came across the numbers. They want to say it's something like 3,200 years ago. I say nearly 4,000 years ago, but people, other historians say it's roughly around 3,200 years ago that this all was done. So 3,200 years ago, look what they were able to make. Once again, I mean, you need to know what you're doing to do all that needlework, to grab these stones and to engrave these stones, to shape these stones, to cut these stones, for all the gold that they got to mold, the gold, they had to do brass and silver. I mean, there's just a lot going on here. They were very skilled, and it was 3,200 years ago. And they were able to build pretty much all kinds of things. So it's very incredible to know that. They weren't, like I say, they were not stupid people. They knew a lot, and they were doing a lot. And so these 2 onyx stones are on the shoulders, and it basically got 6 names and 6 names. And they're, the names of the children of Israel, and it's got their, and it's engraved on there. Like I said, like the engravings of a signet, shalt thou engrave the 2 stones. And you're going to set them in ouches of gold. So not only that, so these stones are set in gold. So that means gold is surrounding them. Like I said, this is some high-end jewelry now on this clothing. Some high-end jewelry. These stones are, and you can see the gold on this one pretty much set on these ones. So they were very nice. And 2 chains of pure gold at the end of wreathen work shall thou make them, and fasten the wreathen chains to the ouches. So it even says there's some like chains attached to these. I guess you can kind of see them right here, these chains. I mean, maybe you can see them if I zoom in. It's kind of connected to this this breastplate over here, but you can kind of see them right here connected, these chains. And so we move on some more. We're moving on to verses 15 through 29, that breastplate of judgment. So this is that breastplate of judgment. And thou shalt make the breastplate of judgment with cunning work, after the work of the ephod. Thou shalt make it of gold, of blue, and of purple, and of scarlet, and of fine twined linen shalt thou make it. So he's basically saying you're gonna model it for this thing too. Foursquare it shall be, being doubled. A span shall be the length thereof, and a span shall be the breadth thereof. So it's saying it's going to be square, and it's going to basically be two spans, whatever that is, or a span and a span, whatever there was at that time. And like I said, you could even see how square it is. It's basically a square piece here. And of course, it's made of gold and got a lot of nice linen around it. And thou shalt set in it settings of stones. So now he's talking about you're gonna have these 4 rows of stones, which we could easily see 4 rows, 3, 3, 3, 3, and on all these stones, there's gonna also be engraved the names. Remember? So here's the first one, even 4 rows. The first row is gonna be sardius, a topaz, and a carbuncle. And the second row shall be an emerald, a sapphire, and a diamond. And the third row, a ligure, an agate, a ligure, an agate, and an amethyst. And the fourth row, a beryl, an onyx, and a jasper. And they shall be set in gold. So this is also very fine jewelry, is what I would call it, that's being attached to this clothing. And I mean, that's even, like I said, even to this day, this would be a very valuable piece of clothing. This breastplate of judgment. It would have been nice. It would have been made of gold and all these stones, and it would have had all the names engraved on them. And that's what it says. And the stones shall be with the names of the children of Israel, 12 according to their names, like the engravings of a signet. Every one with his name shall they be according to the 12 tribes. So their names are going to be on this piece of clothing twice now, on these 2 onyx stones and on this breastplate of judgment. And thou shalt make upon the breastplate 2 rings of gold, and shalt put the 2 rings on the ends of the breastplate. And thou shalt put the 2 wreathen chains of the gold of the 2 rings which are at the ends of the breastplate. And the other 2 ends of the 2 wreathen chains thou shalt fasten to the 2 ouches, and put them on the shoulder pieces of the ephod before it. So that's where I was saying you could see them. Maybe it shows it right here. You could see where it's also connected here to these 2 onyx stones that are on the shoulders. And you could see that they're connected and they're chained to this breastplate of judgment. And these other pictures kind of show that too. This one shows it as well. You can see it, like I said. You can see it connecting. And let's see if you can see it on these other pictures. This one kind of shows it. I think it's a little harder to see, but it's not the greatest picture. But something like that, and this whole picture makes it kind of difficult to even see this breastplate. But there it is. This one, like I said, shows it. So they are connected. That's what this verse is saying. In verse 26, and let's see, and put them. Verse 26 says, "And thou shalt make 2 rings of gold, and shall put them on the 2." Let's see, which is in the side of the ephod inward. And the 2 other rings of gold thou shalt make, and put them on the other 2 sides of the ephod toward the forepart there, over against the other coupling above the curious girdle. And they shall bind the breastplate by the rings thereof unto the rings of the ephod with a lace of blue, that it may be above the curious girdle of the ephod, and that the breastplate be not loosened from the ephod. So it's saying you're going to have another set of these chains kind of down at the bottom so that they connect to the ephod right here. And you see right here with the blue piece of a blue piece of string of some sort, a lace of blue. So that's what this is. I guess that's what this middle thing is. This one doesn't show it as a lace of blue, but maybe it does. It shows it kind of right here. If I zoom right in, that's what it's trying to show right here, this lace of blue. And you can see it connected down here. This is that ring. So that's what it's saying. It's connected to the ephod. It's got these rings and it's connected in there. So that's the breastplate of judgment. We keep moving on. Let's see, verse 30. Well, actually 29. And Aaron shall bear the names. I'm still on Aaron 29. And Aaron shall bear the names of the children of Israel in the breastplate of judgment upon his heart. when he goeth in unto the holy place for memorial before the Lord continually. So he's saying that all these names and all this breastplate, it's also that when Aaron goes into this holy place, he's going to bear the names of the children of Israel. So he's bearing their name when he go into for a memorial. So he's doing it as a memorial. So this is significant. He's going into, when he goes into the Holy of Holies, he's going to wear all their names as a memorial for before the Lord continually. He remembers. So God remembers their names and so forth. And so that they remember the names as well. In verse 30, we're going to read about this Urim and the Thummim. And thou shalt put in the breastplate of judgment the Urim and Thummim, and they shall be upon Aaron's heart when he goeth in before the Lord, and Aaron shall bear the judgment of the children of Israel upon his heart before the Lord continually. So that's a quick little statement. And honestly, I don't even think any of this shows that. The Urim and the Thummim are these are going to be things that God uses later on. And I don't even think these ones show it again, like I said. But they kind of are like these little things. Somehow they use them. I would say they're kind of like dice. They're going to be something that God uses. They're going to go into this holy place and they're going to use this Urim and Thummim, the Urim and Thummim in the future to kind of like throw dice. And God is kind of like a dice, and God tells them based off of how they're used. That's, God gives them their answer. That's what's going to be. We'll read that much later on, but right now it just kind of skims over it, because going on past that, verses 31 through 35, we're going to read about this blue robe of the ephod. And thou shalt make the robe of the ephod of all blue. So I guess that's what we're seeing here, this all blue picture underneath the ephod. Let's see. And there shall be an hole on the top of it. In the midst thereof, it shall have a binding of woven work round about the whole of it, as it were the whole of an habergeon, that it not be rent. So I'm not even sure what a lot of this means. What's a habergeon? Habergeon, a sleeveless coat of mail or scale armor. So you could see it's talking about, it's saying you're gonna have an extra binding around about the whole. So up at the top of it, it's basically sounding like it's saying that at the top of this, it's gonna have on the right where the neck goes, it's gonna be kind of reinforced, so that it be not rent, so that it doesn't tear. So you're gonna put like this. That's what it's saying. You're gonna put up at the top, kind of like reinforcement, as though it was one of these pieces of armor, and so that that's what God is saying, like a habergeon, which is a sleeveless coat of mail. So that's what he's saying, like it, as if it were, let's see, as it were the whole of a hat, that it not. So he's just saying, it's kind of like, so even though these clothings are made of cloth and real nice, and there's some gold in there. I mean, there's some gold and some stones on it. God is saying it's actually kind of like a piece of armor. So that's what God is saying. This is like a piece of armor. Make it like this, reinforce the neck as though it were a piece of armor, that it be not rent, that it doesn't get torn. So that's interesting. God is saying that this is like a piece of armor. And beneath upon the hem of it, thou shalt make pomegranates of blue, and of purple, and of scarlet round about the hem thereof, and bells of gold between them round about. So this is also kind of interesting. This is going back to where I've said in the past that God is really treating the people kind of like animals, is what I kind of say. Like he's, that's when back in Genesis, when he gave, when he spoke to Abraham and he gave them the regulation of the convert of his covenant at that point was to the circumcision. Circumcision was a sign of the covenant back then, and when he was first given it. So like I said in that video a long time ago back in Genesis, when I talk about it, I do make mention that God's kind of treating us like cattle. He's really in control of our bloodlines, and He knows everybody's parents and everybody's children and so forth, and he's keeping really good track of us, kind of like cattle and so forth. And here again, he's it's kind of like the epitome of what we know like a cat, because you put a cat around, we know you put a cat around, you put a bell around a cat's neck. And right here, God is having him put golden bells on this robe. So kind of down at the bottom of the robe, you can, I think this one shows it the best. But this robe, you could see all these little bells down here, and he's putting those little pomegranates, is what he's calling them, the pomegranates down here, and bells. A golden bell and a pomegranate, a golden bell and a pomegranate upon the hem of the robe round about. That's what he's saying. And it shall be upon Aaron to minister, and his sound shall be heard when he goeth in unto the holy place before the Lord, and when he cometh out, that he die not. So like I said, that's kind of like a cat. We put bells on a cat's neck, and this is kind of the same thing. When Aaron walks in, God is saying you need to be heard when you go into this holy place, like a cat almost. You know what I'm saying? So it's interesting. That's where I get at. God is kind of treating. It's like the human. The human is almost like an animal at the moment. And I'm not, and I don't want to, that's not to say anything negative or anything. It's just saying that that's how, obviously how great God is, that he's that far above us, that we're like animals to him in one sense or another, in one way. But moving on past this, let's see, 35, the blue robe, moving from 36 to 39, we get into this mitre. So 36 to 39, and thou shalt make a plate of pure gold, and grave upon it like the engravings of a signet, holiness to the Lord. So this is a gold plate, and you're going to shall put it on a blue lace, that it may be upon the mitre, upon the forefront of the mitre it shall be. So this mitre is, like I said, the hat of this, the turban. So that's what this plate is, and this plate right here is going to read, holiness to the Lord, is what this plate reads. And this what this picture kind of sees. You can see right there. Let me see this picture. This picture kind of shows it the same way. It's kind of like a turban. It's kind of like I said, it's kind of like a crown, but it's this plate of pure gold, and it says holiness to the Lord. And you're going to put a blue lace upon it, and you put it upon that mitre, the mitre being the hat itself. And it shall be upon Aaron's forehead, that Aaron may bear the iniquity of the holy things, which the children of Israel shall hallow in all their holy gifts. And it shall be always upon his forehead, that they may be accepted before the Lord. So now he's wearing this mitre, this plate on his head is another thing, that it's so that when he will bear the iniquity of the holy things. So he's bearing the iniquity. So he's not only is he bearing the names of the children of Israel, he's also bearing their iniquities of the holy things, which the children of Israel shall hallow in all their holy gifts. And so this is also a memorial that it says holiness to the Lord. That's like, remember that holiness to the Lord. That's on his forehead, and he's bearing it for the iniquity. Let's see. And thou shalt embroider the coat of fine linen, and thou shalt make the mitre of fine linen, and thou shalt make the girdle of needlework. So basically, once again, it's just reinforcing this is all going to be really nice. All this is really skilled. Needlework and fine linen. It's all very high end stuff right here. This is high end. And that's verses 39, because after the mitre, we go from verses 40 to 43, and we're going to see some garments for Aaron's son. And for Aaron's sons thou shalt make coats, and thou shalt make for them girdles, and bonnets shalt thou make for them, for glory and for beauty. And thou shalt put them upon Aaron thy brother and his sons with him, and shalt anoint them, and consecrate them, and sanctify them, that they may minister unto me in the priest's office. And thou shalt make them linen breeches to cover their nakedness, from the loins even unto the thighs they shall reach. And they shall be upon Aaron and upon his sons when they come in unto the tabernacle of the congregation, or when they come near unto the altar to minister in the holy place, that they bear not iniquity and die. it shall be a statute forever unto him and his seed after him. So he's also got to make some clothing, and I don't have any pictures to see if the clothing for the children were the same way, but basically it's telling them to at least make this their linen breeches. So they're supposed to have all the way up to, so basically like kind of like pants is what it's sounding like, these pants. So they're not supposed to be naked. So the nakedness is also, this nakedness is, and we came across it, the nakedness is like a shame. To be seen naked is kind of like a shame, which is kind of interesting because we keep this in mind. Also, this is, if you remember the story of Noah. After Noah and after the flood, Noah was, he was after the flood, and they were, he was drunk one day, and his son, and his son was, which son was it? It was Japhet. I think it was Japhet, or was it Ham? It could have been Ham. I think it was Ham. Ham came in and saw his father, which is Noah, naked, and then it came, and that's why Noah woke up and cursed his son Canaan. But and a lot of people, and I made mention in that chapter so long ago, was that I've said that, people think, people will say that, or, the occult people will say that, oh, when he saw him naked, what he really did was he kind of molested his own father. He did something sexual to his own father. But we're noticing, you'll notice that ultimately that's not what it was. It was simply the act of seeing him naked. That was, it's bad to be seeing someone else naked. If you're not there, if you're not married to them. So even right here, God is reinforcing this thing about their nakedness. There's something about their nakedness that, if you remember also back in chapter 20, I think it was chapter 20, when God was giving them the supposed 10 commandments, one of the commandments was to make that altar, and that altar, is not supposed to be, you're not supposed to have stairs, so that, steps going up to the altar so that nobody could see underneath, to see your nakedness. And even in the few chapters, like I made mention, coming up in the next few chapters, when the people kind of do something bad and they make the golden bull and they start, following a false idol, they start worshiping an idol, we're going to see some mentions of nakedness, and see that we're coming to this understanding that our nakedness is a shame. So to be seen naked is to be shamed. And that's something to keep in mind, that's coming straight out of the Bible, and this is another reinforcement of that. And there's several. This is already, at least I would say, at least the third reinforcement, maybe the fourth, because we also remember that Adam and Eve, when they ate of the fruit, that was like the first thing that they noticed, was that they were naked, and they went and put on some clothing, and they tried to cover themselves from God. So right there, that one, and then the situation with Noah, and then at least, like I said, then there's at least the situation right now that we're coming across, and also the commandment to not make the temple with stairs so you can hide your nakedness and everything. But nakedness has something to do with everything here. God is pointing out and yet making another thing, that these are nice clothings, and it's for the priests. And remember, and it kind of points out at the end, remember, cover up your nakedness. That's, cover up your nakedness. And you see that these high priests are doing it in a very, God is giving them a very ornate tunic, robe type situation to cover up their nakedness in this situation. But I will go ahead and end this video here. So this is, I'll go ahead. This was Exodus chapter 28. It was the priestly robes, some clothing that the people have to make. But like I said, we can't, God is telling these people what to do and what kind of work to do. And we've got at least another chapter. The next chapter is going to be something about consecrating the priests, and then another chapter after that where they're also making a few more things that they need to do or the need for this sanctuary. But then we're gonna get into some interesting chapters while God is up there on the mount with Moses. The people are gonna do something very bad, and they're gonna make an idol and start worshiping an idol, and it's gonna be very bad. So we're getting to that part, but we're at this point, God is still kind of finishing up the instructions for this sanctuary, and that's where we're at now. And so I'm just gonna go ahead and end this video now, and just like I've said in the past, if you like what I'm doing, please like the video, subscribe to the channel for future chapter by chapter Bible studies. Yeah, and I pray anybody who's watching this, God bless you, and I pray that we all bless Jesus Christ, and I pray that Jesus Christ blesses all of us. So amen.